Angels of Testimony is a video work by Meiro Koizumi, created in 2019. It is based on testimonies made by Hajime Kondo, a 99-year-old Japanese war veteran who was deployed in China during the Second Sino-Japanese War. You can see his written testimony at the beginning of this exhibit alongside photos of the young Kondo. When he reached China in the spring of 1940, the Japanese had already occupied China for 3 years. This stretch of the war was complex and vicious. Details of its most violent events and the worst suffering inflicted by Japanese forces are suppressed from public knowledge to this day. The publishing of war testimonies like Kondo's is an ongoing source of irritation and embarrassment in Japanese society, and while other nations have very similar histories, especially during times of war or conflict, the particularities of Japanese honour and civic obedience are a cultural phenomena that are arguably more pronounced and less likely to be understood by Western audiences. This work is one of many by Koizumi that engages with this obscured history of the Second World War. In other works, he takes on the voices of victims himself in purposely uncomfortable performances, recreates horror in drawings by ex-soldiers, and films the Japanese public to investigate their broken understanding of Japan's role in the war. The first video you see is of Kondo, who's being interviewed by Koizumi. 80 years on from his deployment, Kondo is in a care home and living with dementia. He struggles to remember his own earlier testimonies of war crimes he took part in and witnessed. The warm atmosphere Koizumi has created with snug textures and a relaxed shot of his subject jars with their harrowing discussion. The film reveals how Kondo and his peers, while serving in the military, were conditioned to believe that Chinese people were less worthy of life than pigs, and that to die for Japan was the most noble way to die. Through the questions directed to Kondo, we learn he is a mass murderer and a gang rapist, and was complicit in merciless barbaric acts committed by fellow Japanese soldiers. While Kondo's memory fails him when trying to recall what he took part in and saw, when asked what young people should know about the war, he becomes extremely upset and is comforted by the artist. He tells Koizumi that he is still haunted by nightmares of wartime executions. How much of the softness of the young Kondo was pressed, broken and reshaped into someone who would inflict all of this horror. The next area of the exhibition places you amongst 3 screens, one showing Kondo, and 2 larger screens showing Japanese young people who, alongside Koizumi, have memorised Kondo's testimony and created performances using its words. You can watch some of the young people performing and see Kondo's interview, which has a different duration at the same time. These performances loop, sometimes reflecting each other, and at other times contrasting with scenes of Tokyo and modern expressions of national pride, offering differing juxtapositions. The young people are active participants in the work, having co-created it with Koizumi, and their young ages, none of them far from Kondo's age when he was deployed, are disarming. The young people selected which passages they wanted to recount by reflecting on the testimonies that resonated for them. Moving from the written page to public pronouncements was developed through collaborative workshops. Chanting the words of the testimony alone in the intimacy of the studio brings some of the young people to tears. When they call explicit testimonies of humiliation and rape loudly into public spaces, their innate wrongness becomes further exposed. The passers-by, who Koizumi makes sure are included in the wide shot, seem intent on ignoring them. This reaction is unsurprising anywhere in the world. Such suppressions of guilty national histories are not confined to Japan. School textbooks of any nation tell the stories that cast them in the most forgiving light. Apologies from the Japanese government for wartime atrocities continue to be made, but understandably considering the historical proximity, continued suppression, and extent of the horrific acts, nations that suffered under Japan's brutal colonial rule remain unsatisfied by the extent that the Japanese government has asked for forgiveness. These public performances point towards a future where young people might seek to be more aware of the truths of our pasts. But should it lay on their young shoulders? And does the sharing absolve past horrors? Nothing about this work is easy. Meiro himself acknowledges the moral complexity of highlighting these testimonies as artwork, but perhaps it can act as a starting point of openness and truth. Reliving and acknowledging the pain of the past in order to heal is a powerful theme of this artwork. If you feel unsettled, remember the importance of recognising your discomfort, know that others are feeling the same way, and take some time before continuing your Artist Mundi experience.